It is like just putting the band back together. It really is, isn't it? Lord Andrew Adonis, former Labour Transport Secretary and leading, I don't think you mind me using this term, leading Ramona, Lord Adonis. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Julia.
Chances of a deal? Yes or no?
Well, there's a very significant item in the news which is worth picking up on, which was President Macron and Chancellor Merkel suggesting, in an act of goodwill, to make a deal and a decent deal for both sides, more likely, that the talk should continue beyond January the 1st. Now, that's a very significant departure, because people have been thinking that we're in a shotgun situation where everything has to be done in the next 24 or 48 hours. Otherwise, things can't be completed before Christmas with all the new rules coming in on January the 1st. If there is an opportunity to, as it were, remove the shotgun from the room and allow the talking to continue, then it sounds to me as if that would be good for both sides.
Well, you say that now. Here's the thing,
though.
You know perfectly well that the EU has a very strong track record of never actually doing a deal until the last. I mean, they don't do 11th hour; they do sort of 11th second before midnight, don't they? That if we went to the talks beyond the 1st of January, that means an extension of the transition period. Now, that would have to be voted on in Parliament. Big question marks whether that would get through. Realistically, look, we were told that's it. Brexit, leave 31st of January, 31st of December, end of, full stop, no transition period. This is just the latest of the cunning ruses by the Ramonas and by the EU to keep us in the EU. Come on, no one's going to fall for that nonsense.
I suspect Boris Johnson himself might quite welcome this latest move, because he himself at the moment is in a really difficult situation where he might, because he can't get a deal on the things that he told us, remember, a year ago were oven ready, but turn out not to be oven ready, that he may need longer to do it. So I would support it. I don't think there's any point in literally accelerating over the edge of the cliff. If there's a chance to stop the car, get out and talk, I think that should be taken.
I'm going to let the cliff reference go, Lord Adonis.
The idea that you could just extend from January the 1st and have continued talks whilst leaving the customs union and the single market would leave the state of the law in complete disarray, and then people trading wouldn't know what the law is in that interim period.
Okay, I'm going to leave the ongoing cliff edge analogies. So you said that Boris Johnson said we had an oven ready deal. He said he had an oven-ready deal, which meaning the withdrawal agreement for us to leave on the 31st of January. Now, I know this was a traumatic evening for you. One of the best nights of my life, still struggling with that hangover. 31st of January, we left the EU. Now, isn't this the thing? One of the main battles that the Brexiteers, the Remainers had was that if we hadn't had people like you trying to sort of hope for what you called a compromise, i.e. not proper Brexit, having lost the Brexit referendum, if we hadn't had people trying to get a second referendum, try and undermine, we probably would have had a deal. We'd have been out, well, not just out, we would have just moved on already. It's been the lack of unity from the part of the people who lost the referendum, 52-48, it's really clear, you lost the referendum. If we'd all gone together, then we would have had a decent trading deal by now. And it's people like you saying, well, let's extend the transition period, and we will never survive outside the EU. Do you think that has been part of the problem? When the EU sees those sort of moves by people like you and other politicians, whether it's John Major, Tony Blair, anyone like that, that actually undermines our ability to get the good trade deal that you say that you want.
Well, it's important to understand what Boris Johnson said. Let me quote his words. We have got a deal, oven ready. Mm-hmm. It is a good deal for this country. It delivers everything that I wanted when I campaigned for Brexit. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's important to understand what Boris Johnson said. Boris Johnson did not say
it was for the transition. That was what was being negotiated. The negotiation was for a transition deal.
Julia, you can let me answer your question.
But you're lying.
Or would you just like to interview yourself?
No, you're lying. No, but you can't just make stuff up, Andrew.
I'm reading his exact words.
Yes.
Let me read them again. We have got a deal oven ready. It is a great deal for this country. It delivers everything that I wanted when I campaigned for Brexit. Mm-hmm. So he can't claim that he had got a deal which delivers everything that he needed for Brexit. But in fact, it turns out that there's nothing in the oven. When you open the door, it's empty, and that the reason why it's empty is supposedly because of me and John Major. I mean, the person who said that the deal was oven ready and ready to take out was him.
No, the
Now,
deal was to leave the EU, the withdrawal agreement to leave the EU.
He said it delivers everything that I wanted.
Yes, and we Brexited.
Brexit, which must, of course, have included the trade deal. It can't deliver everything he wanted.
No, because there wasn't
if it doesn't include a trade deal.
Andrew, my darling,
so
Andrew,
he straightforwardly lied to the British people. And that's the reason why people are calling him out as it's our duty to do so.
You are factually wrong. It was a deal to leave the EU. The trade negotiations afterwards are a different thing.
No, he said it delivers everything that I wanted when I campaigned for Brexit, which included the trade deal.
I've already got everything I've wanted. We've left.
And that's the reason why we're in the difficulties at the moment, is that what essentially happened was that he moved house, sold his current house, indeed he gave the house away for nothing before he'd even put in a proper offer on the next house. Now, if that was you, Julia, or me, we would be held to be deeply culpable by our children and our family if we left them with nowhere to live.
There are so many different analogies, aren't there?
That's essentially what's happening at the moment, which is the reason why I think it would be sensible for him to take more time so that the country isn't homeless on January the 1st.
Isn't homeless. OK. You are aware, I mean, this is the thing, we're told if we don't get an EU trade deal, then we won't get an American trade deal. Joe Biden, the president-elect of the United States, has said, well, a deal with us is contingent on the UK having a deal with the EU. Again, I'm not sure why that should be his business, but that's entirely up to him.
He is president of the United States.
No, that's entirely... What deals...
It's quite an important office in the world. It's quite a good idea to have a good relationship with the President of the United States, not a bad one.
Who was suggesting we should have a bad one? I'm saying it's entirely up to him what he wants to think. But what his views on what we do are... I'm sorry, we still get to choose what we want to do. Here's the thing, though. We are able right now, our biggest single trading partner as a country, as opposed to a bloc in the EU, the EU is our biggest trading partner as a bloc, single biggest trading partner as a country is America. We don't have a trade deal with America right now. How is it possible, given that suddenly we're going to be out in the wilderness, unable to do any trading, that we managed to have a major trading arrangement with one of the biggest countries in the world without a trade deal? Why do we think that is such a big, terrible issue when most countries in the world manage it?
Hold on, Kit. The whole point about this, Julia, is that that's what Boris Johnson told us. It's not, I mean, we could talk about hypotheticals as what's better or worse, but it is reasonable to expect that the government that was elected last December abides by its promises. He told us he had an oven-ready deal which delivered everything he wanted by Brexit. That's untrue. That's the reason why we're in this crisis situation now, less than a year later, because he didn't, in fact, have that oven-ready deal. He also told us that he would be able to quickly negotiate a trade deal with the United States. He told us that. That too has turned out not to be the case. There comes a point, Julia, in public life where you have to be held accountable for your actions. And one of the things that's very clear about Boris Johnson, he doesn't like being held accountable. He doesn't actually like rules. The House of Commons today is being invited to break the last agreement he made with the EU for the transition period. It's being asked to break the arrangements that were agreed in respect of Northern Ireland there. On the very day his negotiators are in Brussels trying to persuade the EU to agree to a deal from January the 1st. If you were on the other side of the table, Julia, do you think you'd be wanting to agree a deal with a country that's already broken the last deal?
Do you raise these same points with all the other countries in the EU who constantly breach EU rules and treaties all the time? Can I just ask you, when you say you have to be held accountable for your actions, you are aware that Boris Johnson was elected the majority of 80 last December. He is accountable to the British people in a way that you, with all due respect, as a peer, have never been accountable, even when you were a government minister. John Major and Tony Blair have not been accountable for many years, even decades now. I mean, he is accountable to the British people. He stood for election.
There's no mystery here. The reason why he has to be held accountable is that he's the Prime Minister. He's in government. I'm not in government. I'm the person who asks the questions and tries to hold him accountable. Indeed, you do too. The media has a very important role, but which you don't fulfill, actually, Julia, because you act as his cheerleader.
I have to say, I think most of my listeners would know that is not the case, Andrew.
Well, I mean, you've spent the whole of the last 10 minutes, Julia, simply doing one complete and utter defence operation on Boris Johnson as if you were his press spokesman. Those of us who in Parliament seek to see that the government stands by its promises have a duty to see that people who trade, which is millions of people engaged in companies that trade up and down the country, aren't left in a state of complete disarray.
No, no, absolutely. No, no. I have plenty of issues with the government failing to prepare properly for the transition, failing to prepare properly. I'm not a cheerleader of government. When I happen to agree with the government, then I will say so. When I disagree, I will say so. I have been a Brexiteer long before Boris Johnson was a Brexiteer, I can assure you. And I tell you what, if I was going to be a press secretary for anyone, Lord Adonis, if I was going to be a press secretary for anyone, I'd rather be the press secretary for Boris Johnson than be the press secretary for Emmanuel Macron and Michel Barnier, which is what the Ramonas like yourself effectively do.
Well, I don't think that Emmanuel Macron's going to be offering you the job. Can I just let you into that secret? Because he's going to offer somebody from his own country that job. I
thought you were doing it for him.
The job of us here in Britain is to hold our government accountable. It's not to hold the French and the German governments accountable.
Isn't it?
And it's our government that said last year, and I repeat, that the Prime Minister had got...
All together now, everyone, 1, 2, 3.
Everything that I wanted and campaigned for in Brexit, which, of course, wasn't correct.
OK, I'm just going to ask you one final question, yes or no. Have we already left the EU?
It's a yes or a no.
Oh yes, he's finally admitted it.
Without the deal, which Boris Johnson said was oven ready. This is the whole point. When we moved out of our last house. When we moved out of our last house, it turned out he was making us homeless.
Was this the house on the cliff?
We didn't have a new house to move into.
Was this the house on the cliff that was falling in? I don't know. I lose track. Or was this the car that's going? Are we in a car or on a cliff or in a moving house? I lose track of the analogies.
Whether it's a car or it's a house, it's not a great place to be under Boris Johnson, I can assure you, Julia.
Oh, Andrew, it's always fun. I mean, I'm hoping one day we don't have to keep having these conversations, but I rather enjoy them. And Lord Andrew Adonis, former Labour Transport Secretary, Ramona extraordinaire. It's always a pleasure. Thank you very much indeed.